Hi everybody, welcome to another Derek Does. Today we're going to do all of this. Hi, welcome back to another Derek Does. I'm Derek and thanks for joining me and watching this channel. Appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing. And if you are not subscribed, please do so because I think you're going to find something you like on this channel. Today I've done videos individually on each of the things I'm going to be showing you, but I thought I would just do kind of an overview of the United States military field jackets. Now, if these are going to be field jackets from 1941 all the way up till 1965 and beyond. Obviously, the jackets came out like in... Well, I'll just get to that. So we're going to do these. And we're going to start off today with the M41, which is kind of the first real kind of field jacket, giving a number and everything. This is the M41. It came out in 1941. As the name suggests. This one is a U.S. Army version. There's also a Navy version very similar to the M41 for the Army. And I'll do close-ups so you can see everything on this particular jacket. Many of these jackets I've picked up over the years in collections and that sort of thing. But we're going to kind of go through each one just a little bit. If you're interested in any of them, go back to my old videos and you can see specific videos just on that jacket, and I'll go into a little more detail on each of the jackets. But this is kind of like an overview. If you want to get into field jackets, this is what you'd want to be getting into. So this is the M41, which is basically started off the field jacket. It's a short jacket. It's just more of almost a civilian jacket in a way, in the way it was made. Not really made for military combat. Is more because it's, you know, it's just a classic military jacket. It's got bottom waist. It's just got hand warmer pockets. It's short, comes to about your waist, and just does has the epaulets that most military jackets do. But it was just kind of a jacket. Now, what replaced that was the M43. So just in 2 years later, the Army during World War II decided we need something a little more useful for our soldiers. So they came up with the M43. This is a 1943 M43, but if you notice, it's a huge difference between the two of them. This is the M41. This is the M43. You can see it's just a completely different jacket. It's longer. It has button pockets at the top for C rations or K rations, and at the bottom it's got button pockets too. There are no hand warmers in this jacket. I mean, you can put your hands down in this if you want to, but it's got a longer, it's got a wind flap, has a still has the epaulets, has a center or a waist cinch on the back, and it's button front. They got rid of the zipper from the M41, which was button and zipper, and on the M43 they just went with the straight buttons. Now, I did have in the past, and I think I mentioned this, and when I did my M43 video, I did have an M43 that was modified, probably during Korea. Somebody had put a zipper into it. So it was basically this jacket, which is the M51. Now, again, this came out in 1951. And so from 43, around 43, up till 51, that's what people wore, was the M43. Other nations also copied these. They used them very similar. This is the M51. If you notice, it's very, very similar to the M43. Now, the big difference is it has a built-in zipper. That's kind of like the major difference between the two of the jackets. They're very, very similar. Same type of, they still have button cuffs. This one had button cuffs. And this M51 obviously came in during the Korean War for the U.S. military, and it lasted all the way up until about 1964 when the M65 came in. Now, this is probably the most famous field jacket out there. Particularly, everybody wants an M65. It was in movies constantly. I mean, everybody has an M65. Now, if you notice, it's very similar also to the M51. It has the zipper, it has the buttons, it has the pockets for your C rations, it has the bottom pockets, but some things have changed. It doesn't have a collar like the other jackets do. It now has a zippered collar with a hidden hood. that you could come out, and it's the first use of Velcro on a field jacket. So instead of buttons on the collar, you have a Velcro there. And on the sleeves, you also have Velcro, and you also have kind of like a storm cuff that comes out to protect the hand. It just gives you a little more weather protection. They're all cotton, every single one of them. They're not really lined. Some of them are like doubled fabric, but it's not really lined. They all, except for the M41, it did not come with a built-in liner. The M43 had a puffy liner you could put into it. The M51 did too. It was more of a, it wasn't really puffy. It was more like a, almost an alpaca, but it wasn't material for that. And then the M65 just had a polyester quilted liner that would go into it to give you a little more winter protection. So those are the 4 jackets, the M41, the M43, the M51, and the M16. Sorry, the M65. Though there's also an M50 that came out, which was very, very similar. It was only out for 1 year, basically, from that. It was like the first generation past the M43, the M50. I don't have an M50 to show you. And of course, there were smaller versions for different select elite units, like the paratroopers had their personal one, but it wasn't a regular mainstream. And the 10th Mountain also had an M42, which was a little different, completely redesigned everything, and there's a video of that also if you want to check that out, but I don't have one to show you right now. But so what I'll do is I'll put each of these on so you can see kind of what they look like when you wear them. They're all pretty much my size or close to it, so I'm going to show you each of those, and it's just kind of an overview of the field jacket so you can kind of see what they are and what they look like. If you want to go into really good details on each of these, I have select videos on every single one of these. Go back to my past catalog of videos to watch and pick up one of those videos, and you can see close-ups of the zippers and how they were made, that sort of thing. You know, all of the intricate details. But today I'm just going to show you kind of like an overview. It's kind of like the end of the year field jacket overview. And then I'll put each one on and you can see how they look. And then maybe I'll even like space them out so you can see the progression, how they look. All right, first up is the M41. Now this one's a little small for me. You can kind of see this is, it's a little small. It's like a 34 maybe in the size, maybe a 38, but it's a pretty small size for me. But you can see you have your hand warmer pockets, you have it zippered in the front, and you have buttons, so you can take that up for a little bit cold. Basically, this was kind of an overcoat, not an overcoat, but an overjacket, and then when it got really cold, you would put another jacket over top of this, and you would layer in this. It does have a wool lining, which is, I think, the only one that actually has a wool lining built into it, but it's still not like super thick. It's a real thin wool. It's not like a blanket, but you can see this is the M41. And this is what they would have started off if you watch Private Ryan or anything. A lot of guys would be wearing this. This is the M41. This is the M43. It's still a little small for me, but just because my only example I have to show you. So you can see it could be a little bit bigger. And again, I think this was a... This is a... I think it's like a 36 maybe in a size, so it's a little small for me. But you can see, kind of overview. You've got a, got a collar that you can pop up if it gets a little cold. It comes up, and it's just buttoned here. Then you have the pockets here and here also. This is the M43. So this is the M51. Now, obviously, this one does fit me a lot better. This is my own personal jacket. The others were my son's. He's just a little smaller than I am. But this is my M51. This is actually, of field jackets, this is my favorite. Between the 41, the 43, the 51, and the 65. I like this one because it's like the 65, only it's a little less bulky, just around the neck. Particularly with that collar where that is. Although the 65 looks really cool, don't get me wrong. I like the 51. If you're a big fan of Jaws, you would have seen this jacket quite a bit, so it had a lot of screen time. But this is the 51. As you can see, this one fits me a lot better. These are just great when it's cool outside and you want a jacket to throw on, this is great. And you have plenty of room, like plenty of pockets to put stuff in. But this is the M51. And you can see it has a zipper, but it also has side pulls here and buttoned. The M65. This is kind of the one everyone wants, really. I mean, there's collectors that want the others, and I totally get that, but for most guys, they just want a jacket, a military field jacket. They want the U.S. military M65. Now this one's a Vietnam version. I think it's, you can tell, again, if you watch my video, it has the aluminum zipper as opposed to later when they went with the brass and later when they went with the plastic. So just little intricacies you can kind of figure out if you wanted to purchase one. You could kind of date it, particularly if a tag is missing. But you can see it's very similar to the M51. It's just a little more bulky, particularly around the collar. It's all because of that hood that's hidden up in here. I like the M50. That's why I like the M51 a little better, because I don't have this restriction around my neck. But if it rains, it'd be handy to have that collar if I need it. So I'll show you this. And that is the field jackets. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Derek Does. It's just kind of an overview of U.S. military field jackets from 41 up to 65. And of course, the 65 was used all the way up until probably the mid-80s, maybe in the 90s, I'm not sure. But check each of my old videos if you're interested in any of the ones, and then you can kind of not read about them, but research them a little bit and see the details of how they're made and that sort of thing, and pick out which one you want better. Or if you're out shopping and you happen to see some olive drab somewhere or some camo or whatever it is, you might be able to tell if it's a real military jacket or just a copy, because all these jackets have been copied in reproduction. Some are good, some are not so good. And you can even buy reproductions of this today for sure. It's pretty easy to find an M65, although, you get what you get. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you on the next Derek Does.